Hey, Strength of Seduction family, this is Daniel, and if you're listening to this episode, there's a good chance that you're already a Strength of Seduction customer. The reality is, most people purchased our Strength of Seduction workouts back during the pandemic because they were really fun to do in the house and they looked exciting, and you wanted to build intimacy with your partner. You wanted to build connection with your partner. But over the past few years, we've realized that just doing the workouts is really fun, it's engaging, and it's interesting, but it's not really what we were trying to get at with our programming. What we intended to do is to create something that would help you to transform your life and your marriage. And it's taken us a few years to figure out what exactly that means. And we didn't do it alone. We did it by talking to you. Over the past few years, we've talked to over 20,000 couples, Black couples in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, who've gone through it all, who've seen the ups and downs of life, who've gone through all the struggles, who've actually achieved happiness. And what we learned was really shocking. We learned that there are 4 key elements that all relationships must have strong. They must have on lock in order to make that relationship thrive. And we took those 4 elements and we designed a program around those elements to help support Black couples in a way we've just never seen done before. And what we came up with was called Love and Legacy. And it's the first and only program in the world created from speaking privately with thousands of couples just like us about the biggest challenges in our life and relationship. And it's actually a proven system designed to help Black couples upgrade our life and our marriage. Now, this is not open to the public yet. If you're listening to this, like I said, you're most likely already a member of our community. And that's why we'd like to tell you about it first. You can apply and you can learn more at strengthofseduction.com/legacy. This is a private page. And I look forward to hearing from you because the reality is there isn't a lot of talk about what makes our marriages work, what makes our marriages thrive. What I've seen when I'm doing my research is that there's still a big stereotype that our marriages don't last, they don't work, that they're non-existent. And that's certainly not the case. In the Love and Legacy community, we have members who've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still going strong. And yet they're still interested in learning more and digging deeper and showing up better as partners and individuals. So if that's you, go ahead and check us out, strengthofseduction.com/legacy to learn more about this new program that we're launching. And enjoy today's episode. This is the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build intimacy, love, and connection in their relationship. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. My friends, welcome back to the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 podcast for Black couples who want to build love, intimacy, and connection in their marriage. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. If you're new here and you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for updates. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform like Apple or Spotify, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. Guys, we love the reviews. We appreciate you. This podcast and this platform won't get any attention, and people won't get their marriage problems solved. People won't get any closer without you sharing it. Honestly, that's the only way this is passed on, by word of mouth. So please do your part to help keep these things going by leaving a quick comment and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. Now, we have an incredible episode for you today, and today really is about the balance of work and life, the balance of career and life, which can be really challenging, especially when you consider the fact that in modern day 2024, or 2024 now, but it could be 5, 6, 7, or 2020, or even in the past 20 years, honestly, 20, 30 years, the trend has been that both partners in the house are working. And that's something that I think it's been the result of multiple different things happening in our communities in general, from just the fact that there's a rise in women wanting to work more. And then also there's a necessity of inflation and the economy changing where everyone needs to work more. So there's been this cycle of change in our career and in our work lives and how that affects our home lives. And some of it's for the good and some of it's for the bad. And so today we're going to talk about just that balance of work and life and family and how we can navigate different elements of that when there can be caused stress and strain from those types of issues. So before we get into that today, I have a special announcement for you. Strength of Seduction is looking for Black married couples who are ready to grow. And when I say grow, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, together. And we're doing this. We're helping couples do this through a breakthrough program called Love and Legacy, which is specifically designed for Black couples who want to build stronger communication, who want to build better health, deeper intimacy, and create more money. If that is you, there's an application for you to apply to this limited edition program. To learn more about it, you can go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more. You'll enter your information in, and then a Strength of Seduction coach will give you a call back and learn more about you, your family, and see if we can help. Okay, that's it. Let's jump into today's episode. Okay, so let's get into it today. We're talking about careers. We're talking about this balance of career and marriage and family and how it all fits together. Now, I think the first thing to acknowledge here is that it is a balance. There is no specific right way to do this. The only thing we can do as smart, educated, informed people who are looking to grow is have the conversation around it and find our own strategy for navigating this. As I alluded to in the introduction to this show, the dynamics of careers for both partners has changed over the years, and it's due to a lot of different factors. I think the first factor is just the rise of equal rights within families, within marriages, for women to have just as much opportunity to make financial headway in their lives as men. And we know that up until a few decades ago, most women were not working, and that created an imbalance. Now, there is an argument to be said that there's equality, but also gender roles. And that's maybe something that we could talk about in a different tangent to this podcast, because I actually do believe that men and women have equal but separate roles in the household. Because listen, if you've ever been in a business, for instance, and if you're a business person like I'm, an entrepreneur like I am, you'll know that if you have two new people that have the same skill sets, the business doesn't actually do well. You don't actually want everyone to be doing the same thing, because it creates too much of the same types of feedback and too much of the same type of blind spots, essentially. So you actually need people in a marriage, in a family, who are going to have different skill sets, different roles, different abilities, okay? And that's a very good thing in my estimation, but you also want equality. And if you just look at how our career system in the US, at least, is trending, we know now that more women are attending college than men. And if anything, the wage gap has significantly shrunk. We know that for a long time there was a wage gap between women and men working the exact same jobs. That's closing, as well as women are getting higher paying jobs and they're attending higher education more than men. And so there are a lot of factors around the career dynamic shifting. I think the first one is that obviously women want to be able to make just as much as men to have more control over their lives and to feel financially secure, so that they know if anything happens in their marriage, whether that means they're leaving their marriage or their partner dies, or they just want to be able to support the family they're in more, they can do that. And I think that's a huge part of the shifting tide in marriage and career. Now, there's also the other part of this, which is the economy is continuing to change. There is no such thing as a static economy. It will always be changing. As I'm talking about this right now, as I'm having this conversation with you, we're going through a period of what some would consider hyperinflation in the US. And if you go to the grocery store, it's not hard to see that things aren't like they used to be. And I hesitate to get doom and gloom about this, because ultimately things go in cycles. I do think that there are obvious indicators of bad things that are happening. If you look at how much money the US is printing, they've printed billions, if not trillions of dollars. And that's never good. It's like if you overfill a pool by 20% and the water doesn't have anywhere to go, it spills out. It's not good for the pool. It starts to create floods. You don't necessarily want that in your monetary system. And that creates harder environment for everyone to swim in, because there's more supply than demand of money, so the value of money goes down. We could have a whole conversation around this, but I think the reality is both partners need to be working. Now, I don't have my exact stats up in front of me, but I was talking to Sarah, and this is something I've read a few times in different sources, in articles, which is the idea that essentially 6 figures is not what it used to be, especially when you're talking about major cities. Right now, I'm living in Oregon. On the West Coast in general, it tends to be more expensive. But whether you're talking about the coastal cities or even some of the major cities that are away from the coast, $100,000 is not what it used to be. And essentially, it takes about $100,000 per person in a major city to have what is now what we called like a middle class life. Now, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it basically 100 grand was like a very nice goal to shoot for. Even if you were making 60 or 70 grand, especially if you weren't in one of the most expensive cities, that was a lot of money. And now that just won't cover it, especially if you have kids, if you have a family. So there are a lot of instances now where even someone who has a good job just can't provide for the entire house with one salary. And that's the reality of life right now. When we interview couples, and we talk to couples all the time, for instance, in our Love and Legacy program, the case is most of the time that both partners are working full-time, or at least one partner is working full-time, the other one is working part-time in order to bring in extra money. And that's just the way it is. And we can have a conversation at a different time about whether we think that's fair or what that means for us as a whole, but we're just talking about the balance of careers and marriage as it is now. So I think the first thing we need to acknowledge is that it is a balance and it can be a challenge. And you are going to have to find with your partner the balance that works for both of you. One of the things that's come to my attention is that there are seasons in which careers operate. And for instance, in the earlier part of my career, I started off, when I left college, I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. This is back in the early 2000s. I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and with my time. And I was at this crossroads where I knew I didn't want to go back to school because I graduated with my bachelor's and there wasn't anything that interested me enough to want to devote more time and money to that system. I would generally think that although there's value in a university degree for sure, there are many more people than before who are opting out of that because, especially when you look at the younger generations now, they're not seeing as much of the financial upside unless you're getting an advanced degree. Now, for me, there wasn't anything that I wanted to get an advanced degree in, so I didn't take that route. But at the same time, if I'm not going to go back to school, what should I do? And so I was just working these basic jobs. I worked at a restaurant, I worked at museums, I worked at with little brown short shorts. Like I did a lot of just regular, quote unquote, regular jobs. And those didn't really satisfy me. So I started to try my hand at doing things more creative, doing things in the entrepreneurial vein. And so I started to develop my career in freelancing. And I became my first thing was as a SAT, ACT test prep instructor. And I learned how to find clients and raise my rates. And then I started to do things on the internet, web design, graphic design. These are all things that were like suited to my individual and unique skills. So I'm not suggesting that you do that, but I'm just giving you examples of what I started to do. And then I started to develop my voice as a writer. I'd always been a writer and I started to develop my voice as a writer. And I was able to use that skill to create businesses around things that were good for me. And I was able to pull myself up while I was working these other jobs, create something on the side and turn that side thing into my main thing. And somewhere along the way, Strength of Seduction was invented. I can make a podcast another day about the full story of Strength of Seduction, which maybe I already have. I'll have to look, recorded a few dozen of podcasts at this point. But that's my story. And during that period when I met Sarah, she's younger than me, so she was still finding her way. And now my career has stabilized, or I'm also in a transitional phase too with what I'm doing. But now Sarah, her career is starting to take off, so she's in a different phase of her career. There are seasons where different partners have different needs and demands on their life, and I think that's the most important thing to remember. And one of the things that I feel is so important is during this time, as seasons change, it's learning to be supportive for each other in those phases. And if you're in a marriage, personally, I think one of the biggest benefits to being married is having someone who you know is going to be your support system, who you know is going to be your ride or die. And I can certainly say with Sarah, she's been so supportive of me and my growth in my career. And I literally could not have done this without her. Strength of Seduction only exists because of her, like for not only creating the thing, but also keeping the thing going. And I acknowledge that full force. And I try to do my best to return the same to her through her journey and the next part of her career. And so I think the first part is, when you're talking about balancing career and family life, and that includes kids as well, it's being there for each other because you are going to be the number one source of support for your partner in their career, or at least you should be. And if you're not, if you're with someone who doesn't support you in your career and you don't support them, what's the point of this? At the end of the day, like, no, money and career isn't everything, but it sure ain't nothing. And it is a lot of what we spend our time and our life on. So we should be looking to figure out how we can support each other to find that balance through different seasons of our lives. And what does that actually mean? I think sometimes it just means like looking at the typical issues that come up around careers, the things that cause the most stress in career. So for instance, time management, fatigue, just getting stressed from work and bringing that home. Looking at how you as a partner, one, can give support to your spouse in those areas, and two, how to ask for support when you need help in those areas. It goes both ways. Now, obviously, I have the perspective of a guy because I'm a man. I'm talking about this, and one of the areas I think I fall short is asking for support a lot. Because, again, we're pre-programmed in this role, for better or worse, to just suck it up, not say anything, and just put the load on your shoulders. And there's a certain amount of, I think, pleasure that I get in being able to do that. But it doesn't mean that I can't also ask for support. And same thing for Sarah. And sometimes it comes down to asking for support, and that's what you need to do to be able to be open and communicate. Other times, it's also okay to intuit what your partner might need beforehand to be able to help them to deal with these stressors. It could be something as simple as scheduling them a massage. It could be something as simple as intuiting what they might need and doing it before they ask. It could be as simple as allowing them to rest when you know they need to rest, or taking the kids so that they can get some quality time to themselves to recharge from a hard day's work. So these are just different ways we can start to intuit what our partner needs and to be able to give them some of that support, and also be able to ask for support ourselves. And of course, talking about all this on a podcast is like very easy because we're like spitballing here. We're just talking like friends. But in real life, it gets pretty challenging, especially when you introduce the idea of having to do all the other things that you're doing within your family. It's never just like a silver bullet. It's never a silver bullet. It's always a 1,000 golden BBs. It's always a bunch of little things. It's never one big thing. And so it's just being able to support and understand what your needs are and what their needs are, and to be able to play that balance. Now, one of the things that I think is extremely important in all of this is just to be able to schedule regular date nights. And even us right now, like, we need to get back to our regular date nights. Because I have been working like a dog, and so has Sarah. We've been working 24/7, just working on our own goals. We're in a very, I would say, the light way of saying it would be, we're in a prodigious growth phase right now, and it's been quite fatiguing. And time management has gone out the window, and stress has gone up. And because those things are happening, it's an even more important time to be scheduling those regular date nights, those regular quality time without work interruptions to support each other. And sometimes that can be a nice dinner out, if that's possible to take in depending on what you're doing. Sometimes that could be a nice movie in. Sometimes that could be getting in some time in nature together, whether it's a nice walk or a hike or going for a workout together. Sometimes it could just be doing something that's just you haven't done in a while together. But like intentionally making that time for each other is part of keeping the relationship healthy while you're working on your collective goals. Now, within Strength and Seduction, we've done research over the years, and we have discovered that there's something called the 4 pillars of a happy home. And basically, these pillars are what create the best outcome for relationships, regardless of what phase they're in. And these are the principles that we apply within our advanced coaching programs like Love and Legacy, where we work with Black couples. And what we found are these 4 pillars are pretty simple, but they go deep. The first pillar is communication. And then, of course, you have health, which applies to mental and physical health. And then you have intimacy, which is both sexual and non-sexual intimacy. And then you have finances. And all of these things interplay with each other. Of course, work has to do with finances, but then the stress from work can also create mental and physical stress, as well as stress on the intimate relationship. And if there isn't communication, then all the stuff breaks down anyways. These are the pillars, and you just want to make sure that as you're dealing with the stress of building your careers together, you're doing this together, and you're also on an individual journey, that you're checking in with these 4 pillars and you're able to support each other the best you can. Mel Robbins, I saw, she put out a quote or a tweet or at some point. I don't follow her too much, but she put out something that she said was interesting. Something that she said was interesting. And it was something, the idea of your 100% might look different every day. You might give your all to support the relationship at a specific time, and your all might be different today than it was yesterday, but it's still your 100% at that time. And you might notice that you go through phases where you just can't give as much as you know you should or could or you used to or you have in the past. And that's when it's a good time, if your partner can, for them to pick up some of that slack. And of course, you want it to be a give and take. You don't want it to always be one partner over giving, but you want to have that balance where when you can't overgive, your partner can help you to pick up the area where you're not capable at that time. And then vice versa, of course, for you. So these are just the ideas of maintaining the healthy relationship within stressful periods, within that work balance, within that work-family life balance. And part of it could just be setting better boundaries around work as well. Again, when I talk about this stuff, I am talking purely about the research that we do within our own community when we talk to thousands of couples and learn from families. I'm not saying I'm the model for this, because I think I need better boundaries for work as well. And I think that there's a certain amount of time within a relationship where you can have these either implicit or explicit agreements of, hey, listen, this is going to be a really challenging period, but we're going to get through it to the other side. And when we do, we're going to have more of what we want. And I think, honestly, that is a conversation that needs to be had explicitly, because sometimes if you're going into a heavy season at work and it's going to cause you to not have the bandwidth to do some of the things you used to be able to do, that conversation is better had verbally than non-verbally. And maybe as the person going into that season, you feel like it's pretty obvious because, look, can't you see I'm working hard? But I think it's better sometimes to have that conversation explicitly and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm dealing with. This is going on with me. This is what I am working on. This is where I need help. This is what I anticipate. And I'm just asking for your patience here. I'm asking for your understanding. I'm asking for your support here, and just getting on the same page there, because then at least the communication pillar is very strong. And of course, that's the main pillar. That's the first pillar of all this stuff. And so having that conversation when you're going into a heavy season can save a lot of heartache. There was a few times when I went into very heavy seasons and I just wasn't very present, and that affected the relationship in a deep way. And it doesn't mean that I shouldn't have also monitored and kept a better boundary. But at the same time, it would have been much more emotionally intelligent for me to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm trying to accomplish right now. This is what I expect it to take of me. Here's what I won't be able to do. Here's what I will be able to do. And are you okay with this? Do you support me in this? Where is it comfortable for you? And I can remember very clearly the time when I was able to make that shift in understanding from, you have to let people know where you are. You have to inform them of what's going on with you so that they can understand. You can't just get mad when they don't if you haven't had the conversation. And maybe this is a purely male thing. I don't know. I think probably it's universal, especially if you have career-oriented women. And this is, again, we talk about particular gender roles and what a man does and what a woman does, but these things are completely fluid. We're making all this up as we go along, and there might be relationships where it's mostly the woman really pressing on her career and the guy who's maybe not doing the same thing, or he's in school, or he's the one watching the kids. It doesn't really matter. We're just talking about roles and who is doing what. And so having that conversation is key to maintaining the balance, in my experience and the experience of our couples. And it can come down to just daily check-ins, having a simple daily conversation to stay on track and stay connected despite your busy schedules. Within Love and Legacy, we have something every week called the Sunday Refresh. And on that refresh, we just go over everything that's coming up for the week. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's like emotional, intimate needs, work and career stuff, family and kid stuff, financial stuff, health stuff, all this stuff in different types of areas and categories. And we just go through a checklist where we have a conversation, or we encourage partners to have this conversation with each other to start to discuss expectations and needs. And that just creates a clear and a constructive conversation about what is going well, what could be going better, and just creating awareness around it. And this is the reason why we have these types of coaching programs like Love and Legacy, to create these bridges of communication so that things don't get lost in the sauce, as it were. Because I think that what we've found most is that when there are issues that are leading to communication breakdowns or breakdowns in emotional, physical health or intimacy, or even within the financial realm, a lot of it comes down to just having a regular cadence and having a mutual understanding, and then working towards a common goal. And so here's something that you can think about. The first thing is, are you as a family and as a couple working towards a common goal? That's the first thing. Now, the conversation that you have can help to clarify some of that. What is it that you want to accomplish with your career over the next few months, few years? What is it that I want out of my career? How can we support each other, and do our interests align? Are they in the same line for our family? Are they on the same trajectory and the same timeline? Okay, that's a good conversation to have. And then once that's the case, if you guys can get on the same page that you have mutual goals, then it's not as hard to understand, okay, if we have mutual goals that we're on the same page, then we can take actions to align with those things, and then we can check in on those actions to make sure that we're doing the right things. So there are going to be times where, look, Dad, you're going to have to take over with more of responsibility with the kids. So there are going to be times where Mom, you're going to have to take over more responsibility with some of the things that Dad loses momentum on, and that's okay. I think the problem is when the conversations around what each other's needs aren't being had, and then the other person is feeling like they have to pick up the slack without acknowledgement or without conversation or appreciation. And if there can be more of that, then you can go for longer periods of time where you guys are both very focused. And of course, if you create the right boundaries around time for work, if you create the right expectations around it, I personally think that whether you're talking about your romantic partner or you're talking about your time with your children, it's better to have less time where you're completely focused on that person or those people than it is to have more time where it's distracted. It's okay if you have the dad who is at all the games, which is great, but then they're always on their phone, or they're around but they're always busy, or they're zoned out. Is that much better than a father who maybe isn't at every single event but then makes the effort that they are there enough to show up strong, and when they're there, they're completely present? And same thing with the wife. I'm talking again from a male perspective, but it's the same thing. It's when you are there, is your presence really felt? Because no one really wants that lukewarm presence. No one really wants to just feel like they're not really being paid attention to. You don't really get points for just having your physical body there. People want to feel your presence. They want to feel your attention. And so I think these are the things, the gems that we can take from the work-life balance. It's not just about time spent. It's about quality time, and it's about attention and intention. And even in this time where you guys are both in maybe a challenging or a hectic or chaotic career time, if you can spend the actual time you do have together in a mindful way, in a meaningful way, it will go a long way. And so I guess that's what I'll leave you with today. It's not just about the quantity of minutes you're spending, but the quality of those minutes and the communication around that time and the expectations that are set and the intentionality around the intimacy that you still maintain even when things are stressful and you need to have that work-life balance are the most important factors to maintaining the relationship. And so that's it, my friends. That's the Strength of Seduction podcast for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to us on, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Leave a review, please. That is how we get others to love the work that we're doing and share it with the world. And until next time, my friends, love fiercely, communicate openly, and always find your way back to each other. I'm Daniel DiPiazza. Catch you on the next one.